Okay. So hello everyone and welcome to College Day and the Careers in Business and Entrepreneur webinar. Before we get started, we'd like to get to know our audience a little bit more. So if you all can take a moment to take our poll that I'm going to launch right now. It should pop up on your screen. Just waiting on a few more people to complete the poll. If you just joined us, we're taking a poll. It should be posted up on your screen. I'm going to close the poll in just a few seconds. Okay, thank you all. Now I'm going to hand it over to our presenter, Micah Merrick. Micah?
Great, thanks so much, Kayla. Before I get started, Kayla, are you able to share the results of the poll by any chance so I can get just a quick sense for who's on the webinar?
Yes, we have 1 non-teaching school district staff and 4 parents.
Awesome. Well, welcome parents and staff, as well as Joelle and Kayla helping me out here. My name is Micah Merrick. Let me share my screen here and get started with the presentation. So give me one quick second here. There we go. Okay. So here's the little title slide. I just thought I'd start this presentation telling you a little bit more about me and my background and why I'm giving this particular talk. So I am somewhat of an expert in business education. I went to Penn State University as an undergraduate and got my degree in economics. And then I have a master's in business administration from the Wharton School, which is a business school at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. Since I left those 2 schools, I've had a number of different roles in the business world. And recently, over the last 2 or 3 years, transitioned out of the business world to join the California Community College system to help faculty from all across the region connect with employers and help them to better understand effectively how to create educational content for the job market. So one thing that everyone here should know, especially you parents, is that I'm going to share some information about the community colleges, but I'm not necessarily here to sell the community colleges to you. Instead, what I'm going to try to do is think back to my what are the things I wish I had known when I was about to enter the world of higher education, and what are some things that you as parents may want to know that you can help explain to your children so that you can really get the most out of the money that you might invest in your kids, as well as the time that your kids are going to invest in their education. So the Bay Area Community College system, I just want to mention a little bit about it. You can see here it's all over the Bay region, and the colleges highlighted in red are the ones in Santa Clara County. So they're probably the community colleges that you would be the most familiar with and are the most geographically proximate to you. That used to matter a lot when we were driving and going into physical classes. But as many of you may know from what's going on with the K-12 system, the coronavirus has also impacted the higher ed system in California. And so business courses across the region are remote through the rest of basically until the summer of 2021. But hopefully, if your child is considering enrolling in the fall semester next year, hopefully, knock on wood, they'll be able to attend classes in person. So these are some of the colleges you might want to explore further and look at their specific programs. But in addition to those specific colleges, there's also, I want to make people aware of the fact that there's something called the California Virtual Campus. You can see their web address down here, down at the bottom, cvc.edu. Here you can register and enroll in classes from colleges across the state. And as I mentioned, business is one of those It's one of those areas where you don't need to be in a lab working on life sciences experiment equipment or a welding machine. These are mostly things that you can learn just using a computer. So the coronavirus epidemic, the silver lining of that is that it's really forced many of our faculty, if not all of our faculty, to transition completely to online learning. And the benefit for that is that your kids can possibly complete their course requirements faster than they would have been able to before, because they can access courses from around the state, not just at their own college. So as you're thinking about community college, I will highly encourage you not just to look at your local colleges, the colleges that are closest to you, but also keep in mind that your kids will be able to enroll in classes at CVC as well. Before I dive into talking about specific programs in business and entrepreneurship, I want to step back for a second and talk about a bigger picture here that I think many people overlook or may not even understand as they're going into the higher education process. And the question is, why pay dollars? Why pay money to go to college in the first place? This is a really important question. College, even community college, costs hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars. It also takes a lot of time to complete. So there better be a very good reason for doing these things. In my opinion, there are only two reasons why you would pay money to go to college. There are many other reasons to go to college, but they may not be good reasons to actually pay money to do it. So for example, to socialize and make new friends. You can socialize and make new friends in many other contexts that don't cost any money or require you to be out of the labor market taking classes. So that is not a good reason, in my opinion, to go to college. And that's why I want to focus on the two key reasons why you should consider even making an investment in your child's education in the first place. The first one, and the most important one, is of course to learn knowledge, skills, and tools that are valuable for a specific occupation. We want to enable your child to go from to gain skills and tools that they can use to get a job that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to get by just being a high school graduate. And I have given some examples here of what I mean by knowledge, skills, and tools. In college, you learn lots about knowledge. This is the theory that's often embedded in textbooks. You also sometimes learn skills, which is how to apply that knowledge in the real world. So you take your accounting textbook, that's the knowledge, and you convert that knowledge into a skill, which is making a financial statement for an actual business. And in business, we increasingly use tools as well. I'm not, of course, talking about hammers and saws. I'm talking about software tools that enable us to do our jobs better. So in accounting, you might use QuickBooks and Excel. In marketing, you might use MailChimp to send email marketing messages to people. And in many other business disciplines, software tools are becoming increasingly important. The second reason why you might want to pay dollars to go to college is, and this is a reason that not many people truly understand, is the signaling value of college. Unfortunately, today, the reality is in our job market that employers discriminate against people without college degrees. They use the bachelor's degree as an arbitrary filtering mechanism to choose whether or not to even consider people for the jobs that they're hiring for. And this is actually the biggest barrier to people getting better jobs, is this arbitrary barrier that's in the way that are imposed by employers. I call it arbitrary because there are many, many jobs where you can learn the skills required in less than 4 years. You can probably learn the skills in 6 months. However, increasingly employers require a bachelor's degree nonetheless. So it's not a good reason, but it's an unfortunate reality of our labor market that you often need to signal your value to the market by possessing a bachelor's degree. And this is really, really important to understand when you're considering community college. The reason is that you and your children have a hard choice to make. The choice is, do you have the time, the discipline, and the financial resources to get a bachelor's degree? Because getting the bachelor's degree is all that matters in terms of that signaling value that I talked about. There is not a lot of signaling value in the job market for associate's degrees or certificates, unless, and this is the caveat, unless those associate's degrees or certificates provide extremely valuable knowledge, skills, and tools for employers. I will give you some examples of what I mean going forward, but this to me is a pivotal question that you must answer before you decide to pursue higher education. Because if you cannot get the bachelor's degree, if you don't feel like your family will be able to support your child in getting the bachelor's degree, then you have a difficult choice. If you can realistically get the bachelor's degree, if you have the financial wherewithal or the ability to get loans and grants, and you think that your child is truly ready to commit themselves to that degree of study, then in the business world, you have a very easy choice, which is that you choose one of your local community colleges and you enroll in an associate's degree for transfer program. Almost all of the colleges in our region have these. And the difference between an associate's degree and an associate's degree for transfer is that the associate's degree for transfer ensures that your credits will transfer to the California State University system. This is extremely important. Most of the kids that go to school in our community colleges will end up transferring to a CSU in the region, for example, at Berkeley or Cal State East Bay, et cetera. So it's extremely important that the time and money that they invest in their education transfer to the four-year colleges to enable them to get that bachelor's degree and enable them to get that signaling value that I talked about. And one last thing to consider is that if they pursue this path, getting good grades is extremely important. Again, it's a little bit of an arbitrary thing. Getting good grades doesn't mean that you will perform well in the business world, but it does mean that you will increase your chances of getting into a school that you want to get into. And sometimes these schools are impacted, which means that they can't accept everybody, even if they exceed the lowest kind of minimum grade threshold. So it's extremely important to focus on grades when you're in college. If you feel that for some reason, on the other hand, that for whatever circumstances you cannot get a bachelor's degree, or perhaps there's not enough time, or there could be many reasons why it just isn't realistic for your child to spend the next 4 to 5 to 6 years pursuing their bachelor's degree, then things are a little bit trickier. As I mentioned, the signaling value of an associate's degree or a certificate from a community college is not very good, quite frankly. And so you have to make sure that if you're going to go that route, that they are valuable. There's another option to consider besides community colleges for something less than a bachelor's degree, and these are online boot camps. And I'm going to talk about these two options right now because I think these are the two best options that exist for people that don't feel that pursuing a bachelor's degree makes sense for them. With regards to community college certificates, the big pro of this community college system is that it's extremely inexpensive. So that makes it less expensive to pursue, and for that reason is a huge benefit. And obviously it's open enrollment as well, so you don't have to go through a type of application process and potentially be not get accepted. On the downside, it's a little harder to get those knowledge, skills, and tools for those jobs in a quick way, because the courses are offered along that academic calendar. And in some cases, the knowledge, skills, and tools you might acquire are a little bit, they're not quite cutting edge. And the reason is because faculty are often many years removed from the job market. Whereas in the boot camp system that I'll talk about later, the teachers are oftentimes coming from the private sector, and so they have a little bit more current skills. If you're going to pursue a certificate at a community college, I strongly recommend the options that I've shown here, because those are jobs, for example, in bookkeeping related to accounting, or in sales, or in marketing. These are some jobs in the Bay Area that exist in the business space where you can get a job with less than a bachelor's degree and make more money than you could if you just finished high school. So you want to make sure, again, that those certificates really have hard skills and hard software tools associated with them, because that will enable them to get the best job possible. Um, you don't, for example, want to get a certificate in just business administration, something a little bit more generic. It just won't transfer as much value. The other option, if you're not going to go the bachelor's degree route, is to explore the world of boot camps. Now, these are oftentimes offered by private companies. So the con of the boot camp is that they tend to be more expensive, even though financing opportunities do exist for them. On the other hand, there are full-time and part-time programs, and they're extremely fast. So your ability to apply yourself or your child to apply themselves to a course of study and get an occupation within a few months is very possible. And as I mentioned earlier, the knowledge, skills, and tools that are being trained at these boot camps tend to be cutting edge, and they oftentimes have very good employer networks as well. So they're more expensive for sure than the community colleges, but nonetheless are still worth considering. If you want to learn more about the world of boot camps, I highly recommend this website called Course Report. They have tons of reviews and tons of advice about exploring that world. There's also 2 boot camps here in the Silicon Valley area in business specifically that I highly recommend. One is called FlockJ. You can see it over here. They provide training in a very short period of time to get a job in tech sales. And you can see some of the companies where they've placed their graduates, including Zoom and Google. There's another program in the East Bay called Climb Higher. Here, they're training people in to get jobs at becoming Salesforce administrators, again, in a very short period of time. I think their program is only 12 weeks long. So these are really exceptional ways to go from graduating from high school to getting a job in a very short period of time without having to wait for multiple semesters to complete a certificate or a degree. One coda here. I've talked a lot about kind of the academics related to business, and I haven't talked so much about entrepreneurship. The reason why is that there are no job postings for entrepreneurs. And so if you'll recall what I was speaking about earlier, the #1 reason to spend time and money on studying something is to get an occupation. But there are no occupations for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs create their own businesses. So in this case, I highly recommend that if your child is interested in entrepreneurship, that they learn the knowledge, skills, and tools they need to succeed for free, as well as connecting with other people and other mentors for free, so that they're not spending money on that option. And in fact, they may have to invest money in creating their own business. So you don't want to necessarily spend money on the training and on the business itself. So this is kind of a little glimpse into the world of going into entrepreneurship. And that would be my coda, so to speak, with regards to entrepreneurship.
Micah, are you familiar with NAFTE, NFTE? NIFTE. It's a entrepreneurship club organization for high school students.
Yes, I have heard of that club. Yes, I have.
I'll put it in the chat for people to kind of explore.
Yeah, and so so I'm frankly at the end of my short presentation here. I tried to keep it at a very high level. You can really get into the weeds on a lot of these different programs at all of the different colleges, and there's lots of little nuances that are very hard to go through at a high level. So I just tried to keep this at a high level, which is to say, the first decision is whether you can go to college or not, to get that bachelor's degree or not. And then the second decision is that if you can't go to get the bachelor's degree, then you kind of are choosing between community colleges and boot camps. And I think that's the decision tree that will lead to the best decisions for kids that are interested in business. And I'd love to spend the rest of the time on Q&A because I'm sure parents have lots of questions. So Kayla, you tell me if now's a good time to tell people to go to the survey, or should we do Q&A first?
They can go ahead and take the survey right now, or they can also wait to the end. It's up to you.
Okay, why don't we wait till the end and just go to Q&A? What's the best way for me to do that?
So we do have questions in the chat. One of the parents has a daughter that's in high school in a business pathway, because some of our local high schools do have CTE business pathways. And so they're currently taking accounting. Do you know how or where they can sit for the QuickBooks certification?
I don't know the answer to that question. Although I would be more than happy to research that and follow up with parents that that are on this call, because presumably you guys have those email addresses.
I believe Kayla will have, yes, she should have that through the registration. We can, you can, if you want to pop, Mike, if you want to pop if you want to answer, or we can send the questions to, you can get a copy of the chat, I think, so you could.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll have to follow up on that. I'm not sure if my gut tells me that Intuit, which is the company that owns the QuickBooks software, my gut tells me that they probably have a network of basically places where you can take those types of exams. It may even be something that you can register to do online. So I'll have to research that, but I'm sure there's an answer to that. And some of our colleges may offer that as well, but I'll just have to see.
There was a question also about the starting salary for some of the careers that you had listed. And I'm assuming it would depend on which way you go, either a 4-year degree or an AS.
It really does. One of the reasons I didn't choose to present the salary piece is that it's such a wide range, depending again on whether you go to community college as a vehicle to get your 4-year degree, or if you're just going to community college to get like an associate's or certificate. It really is a big range. There is data available. I'm going to put it in the chat box. This is a tool that's offered by the California Community College Chancellor's Office. It's called Salary Surfer. And you can go to that website and you can select your program of study, in this case, business and management, and it will show you many of the median annual salary for all of the different degrees and certificates. And that really is the best publicly available information that we have on this topic. The only caveat I have to that is that the Salary Surfer data, it includes adult learners as well. So you have to be a little bit skeptical of some of the certificates where you see high earnings, because in some cases, those are certificates where adults with previous work experience have entered, have taken those certificates. They already have a bachelor's degree. They already have experience in the job market. So use your own judgment when you're looking at that data. And they do show you the earnings of students before they entered the program. So if the earnings of the student before they entered the program is above $50,000, you can be pretty sure that they have a bachelor's degree before they're going into that. So that would be my caveat there, and hopefully that that information is valuable to people.
And we had another person who was wanted to know, what is a CTE business pathway? And we say CTE, that's career technical education at the K-12 level. In community colleges, I believe you guys call it a career education, CE.
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit just the lingo.
Yeah.
But for sure, if if you have a child that is getting is dual enrolled at their local community college, so they're taking a class in high school that is also getting them college credit, this would go strongly towards my recommendation to, if they wanted to keep pursuing that and apply those credits towards something, that they apply them towards the associate's degree for transfer. I think that is that's the best associate's degree to pursue. Again, if the end goal is to get a 4-year degree. And confusingly, many colleges will offer just a plain associate's degree in business administration or business management. And you don't want to take that because it's not guaranteed to transfer. So you want to make sure that your child always has the option to apply those credits to a 4-year degree in the future. So that's why I strongly recommend that they call it the AST, the associate's degree for transfer to parents.
Great. And just to understand the CTE pathways for business in K-12, there's several different pathways depending on what the school is offering, because some of them are business management, some of them are entrepreneurship, there's international, there's about 5 or 6 different business pathways in the K-12 pathways, but they can all lead to a business associate transfer degree to the community colleges. So hopefully the CTE teachers who are teaching those pathways in the K-12 will understand the connection to those pathways in the community college. And we call those K14 pathways. And I'm glad Micah brought up dual enrollment, because that's a really important part of building your college experience in the high schools. And we do have a lot of different types of dual enrollment possibilities at the high school level that can connect to pathways in the community college.
Great. Are there other questions, Joelle? I'm just going to scroll
Yes,
back through the chat box.
yeah, there's something about reselling shoes and how that may affect in applying for college.
So something like that strikes me as a great experience to mention in the event when you have an application essay. So I'm not sure it would necessarily apply to the community college system, since we are an open enrollment system and aren't necessarily asking for for those types of application essays. But that would certainly strike me as a perfect example of an experience you would absolutely want to mention in an application essay to a competitive admissions process.
Another question about summer camps and internships. Are they available to explore careers in business?
Yeah, this will be another follow-up for me. There's a number of different websites that I don't have at the tip of my fingers here, but I will certainly provide those to all of the attendees afterwards. What I would say is that there are a handful of summer programs at the community colleges to do this. And I would want to obviously find the specific ones to share so that people can go right to those websites. And then in terms of career exploration in general, there are a number of different sites offered both by the government and kind of on the private side that talk about the many different business applications. And it's one of the tricky parts. One of the tricky parts about this whole area with business is that it applies to so many different things that it isn't totally possible to explore everything in the span of a 30 or 40-minute webinar, right? Because it's one of those degrees where you really can get jobs in just so many different areas, particularly on the bachelor's degree side.
There are a couple of kind of counseling, and I'll see if you can answer this one, and then I'll answer the other one regarding dual enrollment. It says, my son is the first in his family to go to the university or college. I don't know what the recommendations are for him, because he wants to be an architect.
He wants to be an architect. I am not an expert in architecture. However, my limited experience comes from my friends that are architects and my father, who was a draftsman. So I believe there are a handful of occupations that do not require a college degree to get into that kind of design space. However, I believe to be an actual architect does require a college degree. So and I don't necessarily believe that that business would be the best kind of training for that. But that's something I'd be happy to research again and kind of share. I think the short story there is that you will need to get a 4-year degree if your child wants to become an architect. Although there may be occupations that don't require that level of training, like kind of on the drafting side, where you're not the person designing the building. You may be making minor modifications to the pre-existing design. So I can try to explore that a little bit more and see if there are any programs like that offered at the community colleges in general, and I'd be happy to share that afterwards.
Great. Another question is, do we ask the high school counselor regarding dual enrollment, AST programs, or can we directly enroll in college courses? I can kind of answer some of it, and you might be able to answer it too.
Sure. Go
Yeah.
ahead. You go first.
Well, dual enrollment is it's kind of this overarching broad definition of any college course where you can earn at the same time high school credit and college credit, but there's different types of dual enrollment. So there's concurrent enrollment. Those are open courses that high school students have an opportunity to take for free that don't necessarily go to a pathway. But let's say you look in the college catalog and you want to take an accounting course, it's open for high school students to take, but your counselor has to sign off on the form. And the reason why they need to do that is the counselor wants to make sure that the student has the grades and academics, that they're doing well in their own high school courses before they commit to also doing a concurrent course at the community college. And that can be done during the regular school year and in the summer, and it's free. And I believe you need to be 16 before you can start taking those community college courses. The counselors, I would hope, know about the associate degrees and the different degrees around the different community colleges in the area. But maybe Micah can answer a little bit more about how do you get information about that, and then how do you enroll in a community college?
Yeah, great point. So I appreciate the explanation, Joelle. I mean, I think oftentimes the best way to get information is just to reach out to, one of your local colleges kind of directly and do as much kind of research as you can online. And most every college website will have kind of the enrollment process. It can be a little tricky because the websites are not maybe as modern as you might hope compared to some of the other consumer applications we all use. But that would be really the best place to start.
And every community college has a different way of doing it. So just be forewarned that it's a different process at every community college for now.
For now, that's true. I'm seeing another question here that says, do you need a 4-year degree to be an accountant? So in the world of accounting, there's effectively two entry stage positions. So one is bookkeeping or payroll, things like that. For that, you do not need a bachelor's degree. That you can go to community college, you can get a certificate in bookkeeping, and you can work for a company running their payroll or making entries into QuickBooks and things like that for expenses and things like this. However, to be considered a quote unquote accountant, what we normally consider an accountant is somebody who is a certified public accountant or a CPA. You cannot sit for the CPA exam unless you have a bachelor's degree. This is, again, one of those arbitrary things, which isn't necessarily fair, but is just the way that the world is at this point in time. So even if you were if you had, you would have to have many years of experience and go through lots of hoops to be able to sit through that exam without the college degree. So if your goal is to become a CPA, then yes, you really do need to go to get a 4-year degree for that. And that really is kind of the gate for all of the other kind of higher level jobs in the accounting and finance world, for better or for worse. So to become the controller of a company or the chief financial officer or things like that, most oftentimes you're going to need to have the bachelor's degree or the CPA to do that.
The next question, I don't know if either one of us can answer, doesn't quite directly relate to this, but we can certainly maybe point this participant in the right direction. It really actually has to do with sports. My son plays sports. How will scholarships work or recruitment offers for this year or next year with the virus going on?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a young son who plays competitive soccer. So my understanding of the recruitment pipeline is that I certainly don't know how it's going to be impacted with COVID. I think that's kind of a huge question mark for everybody. But oftentimes in the world of sports, if you were being recruited, you would kind of know about it. Like if you're playing at those elite level club games, the coaches for those programs and for schools are going to be recruiting and scouting at those things, and it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, don't call us, we'll call you. So that's you can for sure reach out to schools and individual programs. You can share workout tapes, record workout tapes and things and share those online with them to show them your skill sets and try to be proactive about it. But in many cases with competitive sports, there's hundreds, if not thousands of players for a handful of positions for like an incoming freshman. So, for sure be proactive, but simultaneously understand that it's oftentimes a don't call us, we'll call you situation in that world. And that's again, me speaking with my soccer hat on. It could be very different in other sports. So please take those comments with a complete grain of salt, but that would be my best stab at an answer to that question.
There's another question about certificates for business careers, and are they offered at the community colleges? And do you have a website for that, for the different certificates? Because I know somebody was working on an interactive website for that.
Yeah, unfortunately, every single college, it's really going to each individual college to look at the individual certificates they offer. They will list them on the college website. So, if you know the college that's kind of closest to you, or again, you can go to that CVC website. That would be another way to look. In general, most of them offer certificates in business administration. Most of them offer certificates in accounting, and then a handful of them will offer them in things like real estate or marketing or other business disciplines that aren't quite as common as business administration. Please recall, if you missed the earlier part of my talk, I don't recommend getting a certificate in business administration. You do not learn enough skills and tools in that certificate to be truly valuable on the job market. So I recommend something more specialized if you're going to get just a certificate. So marketing is better than business administration. Sales is better than business administration because you are specialized in something at that point in time, whereas business administration is a little too generic. Now, this seems counterintuitive because I'm also telling you to get an associate's degree for transfer in business administration. But the reason for that is that the associate's degree for business administration is just your ticket to getting into a four-year college. And making sure those credits transfer. So there's different goals. In the one case with certificates, my goal is to get your child a job. In the second case, my goal is to get your child into a four-year college as quickly, painlessly, and inexpensively as possible. So that's why the advice differs depending on the goal.
That's great advice because it does differ probably from family to family and person to person given a situation. There is a question that has come up in other workshops, and maybe this is a question that's coming up with some of our attendees, but are there opportunities as a student is pursuing either their certificate or their associate transfer degree that they can have real world experience through internships or apprenticeships at the community college level, so that gives them those real world experiences, making them perhaps more, I don't know, experienced, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, no, this is a great question. Obviously, internships are extremely important. I would say it varies college to college, and I know this. I'm getting a little bit repetitive here. I think the best advice I have is to kind of take matters into your own hands and encourage your kids to do the same. And that means reaching out to employers on their own proactively to try to get those opportunities. Those opportunities are not just going to kind of be presented to them, as readily as they might be in other situations. It is an ongoing initiative at the community colleges and particularly for folks like myself to try to connect faculty with these exact types of opportunities. But we are still in early days as a system in being able to do that really efficiently. So for example, we will email faculty members when we stumble upon internship opportunities or things like this, and those will get passed along to students from time to time, but they're a little bit sporadic. They don't happen, they happen infrequently. And so if you want to make sure it happens, as opposed to relying on kind of luck, you really want to encourage your student to pursue those opportunities on their own, and also to reach out to the career services office at the college to make sure they understand they're interested in those opportunities, and be able to be trained on the systems that are at the college level um, for finding those types of opportunities. And one last thing is that at the colleges, there are a number of career events, and those can also be really good. So depending on the college and the discipline, they'll have career days or career weeks where employers themselves will come to campus, or in these days, host a virtual webinar where students can attend and learn more about those opportunities. So they do exist, but again, don't rely on them kind of falling in your lap, and make sure you and your student know to really chase down those opportunities themselves.
And on the K-12 level, the Santa Clara County Office of Education has partnered with Earn and Learn, which is an agency that tries to provide many different types of work-based learning opportunities for our students in high school that can range from guest speakers to job tours, to job shadowing, to mentorships, to internships. And so we just began that partnership. There will be more information going out to our high schools in our Santa Clara County, and we will provide that information to our districts so that teachers and administrators and counselors know that those opportunities will be out there for our students. And so we're trying to build those opportunities because we understand that the more students are exposed to different types of work-based learning, the more they're going to be ready to know the focus they go in, and that when they go into post a secondary learning, and the more they know where they want to go, the better they're going to do when they get there in college. A lot of our students who go straight into community college without a focus because it was a default and not a destination may struggle because they don't have a particular focus. But if they have a focus before they get to the community colleges, we know they do a much better job in sustaining that. So we're going to try to do a better job on the K-12 level. Someone was asking about the website for the Earn and Learn program. You can research it. It's called Earn and Learn, and I'll put it in the chat box. And we are partnering with them with 5 districts in our consortium, but there are some free opportunities that come up also with other districts. And I know that the community colleges are also doing a joint venture with Earn and Learn. I'm not sure if Micah is aware of that or not, but.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the business sector, we just started working with Earn and Learn as well. So I think this is some good news, which is that, as your kids are looking to enter the system, let's say in the fall of next year, the colleges and the K-12s, as Joelle was mentioning, are going to be doing a better job of pushing those opportunities to our faculty and staff that are interacting on a daily basis with our students. So I think this is something that is only going to get better over time, and there will be an increasing number of those opportunities being made available to students, because one great part about being in Silicon Valley and in this region is that employers are truly genuinely interested in working with our students, and they want to support students from all walks of life and all geographies in this part of the country. And so they are approaching us and looking for ways to work and to partner with us.
And I want to also point you to this is through the California Department of Education. It's a free career exploration tool called Career Zone, CAREER zone.org. If you go to that website, you can do all kinds of different activities to find out what your interests are in careers. And then it can start aligning you based on your strengths. It's like almost like a strengths survey. Like, what are you interested in? What kind of person are you? Who do you want to work with? And even in business, there's probably some things you should be thinking about in the types of business pathways you may want to go to, because an accountant may be a different type of interest versus someone who goes into marketing and sales, versus somebody who goes into a different type of business pathway administration. So these kinds of things will help you kind of figure out what your interests are based on what kind of environment do you want to work in.
That's great. And Joelle, as I mentioned earlier, I'll be sure to send out send to you so you can forward to the attendees a list of these similar types of resources so that them or their kids can kind of work on those. Because you're absolutely right. There are obviously roles in the business world that are great for people who are very extroverted and like working with people and like talking all day. And there are roles that are much better suited if you just like to stare at a computer and crunch data and make work on spreadsheets and stuff like that. So it's a career path that is open to all kind of personality types and interest levels, but it will make a big impact on the types of things that you do. And most people, obviously, if they're getting a bachelor's degree, don't have to make those decisions quite just yet. They can just put their heads down and get that associate's degree for transfer and just make that happen as fast as they can. But if you're going to be pursuing a certificate in order to get a job within the next 1 to 2 years, you really want to have a good understanding of these topics so that you make sure that you're really passionate and interested in the career that you're ultimately going to be pursuing.
All right, we have 12 minutes left. If there are any more questions, go ahead and pop it in the chat, and maybe we could start the survey also. Unless Micah had some closing comments.
No, I think this is all great. And again, I apologize not to have some of these resources at the tip of my fingertips, especially for you parents, but we will send out a follow-up email so that you guys can start looking at places. And again, I would welcome any questions or comments, and I'll also provide the organizers with my contact information. If people are more than welcome to send me an email with any questions they have, particularly as it relates to their specific circumstances. Oftentimes, there are questions that come up that are maybe not appropriate for a group setting because your children are unique people, and they may have something that's very unique that isn't applicable to everybody else on here. And I'd be more than happy to try to put on my thinking cap and answer those types of questions. For example, from the parent that has a student interested in being an architect, that kind of thing is really great, and I'm more than happy to help one-on-one afterwards.
Thanks, Micah. And we have an attendee that might have missed a little bit about the sales and marketing certificates were suggested. Is it more helpful for someone who plans to pursue a 4-year degree in business versus a certificate in business? And if you can maybe kind of touch back on that again, the difference between the two.
So you're saying the difference between the college degree and the certificate?
Yeah, is it beneficial if you're going to go get an AS transfer? Is it beneficial to get a certificate, or should they just, if they're pursuing a 4-year degree in business?
Yeah, so if you're pursuing the 4-year degree and that's the end goal, then my advice is extremely simple, and that is to simply get the associate's degree for transfer. Since you're going for the 4-year degree, you're not kind of as worried about training for some specific job. And what you're more concerned about is making sure that the money that you spend on those college credits will transfer to the CU system. That's really the CSU system, excuse me. So that's really the focus. On the other hand, if you're more interested, if you or your student are more interested in pursuing a career or a job, getting job training for a job that you expect to get in the next 6 to 18 months, then that is where either pursuing a certificate at the community college level or exploring the world of boot camps would make the most sense, because you're trying to get skills that you can apply in the labor market as quickly as possible, and you're not trying to go for the 4-year degree. So
Great.
hopefully that answers that question.
And just to let our attendees know that Micah will be sending Silicon Valley Ed Foundation the PDFs of his slides, so that you will have a copy of the information that he presented to you. And Silicon Valley Ed Foundation will send it out based on the people who registered for this particular webinar. I also will be uploading all 5 regional directors webinars, the actual recordings on the website, which I will put momentarily in the chat, which is my CTE website at the Santa Clara County Office of Education webpage, so that you can, if you wanted to, tell people about the great, amazing resources we have with our regional directors and CTE resources, you can go to that webpage to see what that is all about and what we're offering. But But I want to thank Micah for the fabulous job and all of our regional directors who have been just awesome with us at the K-12 level.
Happy to do it. Thanks for hosting, Joelle. Is that one other question that just popped up there?
Yeah, that was asking, will the recording of the session be available to watch later?
Oh,
I
okay.
will upload that probably next week. I have the first 4 should be on my web page this afternoon. I've asked my admin assistant to do that, so that should be up pretty soon, if not already. So let me get my web page information out there I'll copy and paste it so people have it. I just have to pull it up. Oh, it
Also,
looks like there's a
doing
survey
that,
poll.
I went ahead and launched the last poll. So if you're still here, you can go ahead and fill out that last poll for us.
And I will put my my webpage that's in the process of being more dynamic. So any suggestions are welcomed. That's my webpage for CTE. We'll have all 5 of the recordings there, and Silicon Valley Ed Foundation, I believe, will have all of the webinars, the mini webinars, not just the regional directors. I believe they're going to be posting them pretty soon too. Am I correct?
Yes, Christina's working on posting them, I think, at least daily after each session, or all of the sessions per day. So by next week, they should be up.
Yeah.
We're just waiting on a few more respondents for the poll.
Thank you everybody for attending. I'm really excited, and we had a good attendance actually for the week. I think Micah, you got the prize for the most attendees. You could tell your regional director colleagues that. I'm only kidding. Oh, the poll didn't pop up, one of them is saying.
Well, that's okay. If I close it, then it takes away all the data. Make sure you take the survey.
And someone was asking about the intro, but I'll just answer it.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll be sure to add I'll just add some extra slides so that everything's in that one single deck when you guys send it out, you know?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
To the person who said the survey said you already did it, it may be because you've attended previous sessions and they're only allowing you to take the survey once, unfortunately. But thank you.
Yes, they have. I've seen them at many of the sessions. Awesome. Well, I'm
Cool.
gonna pop off to my next webinar.
All right.
Thank you, Micah.
Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Joelle.
Kayla.
Thank you.
All right. See you later.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.